Welcome to The Power of the P, the podcast designed to help you become empowered in your truth, free of fear. I'm E.L. Brooks, your host, here to bring you expert advice and effective tools based on neuroscience to help you deal with all the stressors in life, relationships, and work. I'm here to keep you off that struggle bus through the power of the P. Are you ready? Then let's go. Welcome to The Power of the P, episode number 6. Thank you for tuning in. And if you're not familiar with the show's format, it's like a Dear John life advice show, except for I'm E.L. So it's Dear E.L. with followers and subscribers sending questions of the things that they're dealing and struggling with. And I'll pick one, maybe 2 questions, and I'll give insight, provide some effective tools that are backed in neuroscience, and I'll offer one key takeaway at the end to log into your memory to help you become more resilient and emotionally stable. So this is a special episode. Normally, as you know, the team and I will address an email that we received, but in this case, I had a call with a potential client who's feeling really emotional because she's in the middle of a nasty divorce with what she describes as a narcissist. So I know a lot of people like to throw that word around, narcissist, right? It's like the buzzword of the decade. We're serving it like pancakes in an IHOP. But I'm not quick to label people, as we're all capable of displaying certain personality tendencies when we're placed in certain scenarios. There's a big, wide range and a spectrum of possibilities. How do I know? Because they say, if you spot it, you got it. Remember, all of our relationships are mirrors. But in my discussion with this individual, I was really curious to get to the bottom of this, since I'm currently dealing with a new client who's recently divorced and is claiming and describing that his ex is also a narcissist. My approach is always to meet my clients where they're at, right? So I don't have a cookie cutter approach. So in this case, my research to provide tailored solutions for my client, I wanted to share what I recently found, and I wanted to expose some information that might help everyone both identify and navigate the landscape in their way around a narcissist or people with narcissistic tendencies. It's pretty fascinating, so please pay attention. Again, like our usual podcast segments, I will give you proven solutions backed in neuroscience, but in this case, it's what the experts are claiming and suggesting. And again, I'll always leave you one key takeaway at the end to log into your memory to what? Help you become more resilient and emotionally stable. So this is a 2-part segment. So part 1, in this episode, we're going to give you the straight psychological feedback and perspective. And then the next episode, part 2, we'll take a more aggressive, more militant approach on how to handle and navigate your way around a narcissist or people with high narcissistic tendencies. How's that sound? Then let's get started. So how do you know? And a lot of people display narcissistic tendencies, but it doesn't mean that they're a full-blown narcissist. A full-blown narcissist is a special individual. Statistically, they represent 1% of the population with 6%, or actually medicine.net. And I think that that figure is low, but for argument's sake, so let's just assume that that is the case. Then this really means that most people are on the spectrum and are displaying narcissistic tendencies, but a full-blown narcissist is a really special person. Why? Now, here's the shocking truth, and I do believe that this applies to a lot of people that are high up on the spectrum of tendencies. You can't fix a narcissist or one with high tendencies, period. Ability to change, but after years of research, he finally admits trying to fix a narcissist is above his and everyone's pay grade. He believes no one can do it. And if Dr. Phil says no one can do it, that means it must be true, right? Just joking. Now, seriously, I love Dr. Phil. A lot of experts truly believe that you're not going to change a narcissist no matter what you do. They can appear as any person they need to appear as in order to generate an emotion from you. He says that they are emotion-generating entities, and that's their main and only goal, period. Again, in theory, anybody can learn to change if they're motivated to do so. But Gannon and Dr. Phil say that a narcissist is more like a piece of issue is that nobody really knows where narcissism comes from. There are a few primary theories, and once you know these, you can start to excuse yourself for trying to fix someone that may be in your life, or better yet, you can start to forgive yourself for the gaslighting and other strategic tactics that a narcissist uses to knock you off your game. You can start to realize that you're not crazy. You're just being manipulated. So me personally, I've been exposed to this, and let me tell you, you can feel guilty. You can start to feel ashamed. You can feel not good enough. Let me tell you that the variety of emotions that these people evoke is endless. And unfortunately, most of these emotions are negative in nature. So they leave you feeling less than, and that's their main mission, as you're about to learn. The research is, drumroll please. You ready? Very ambiguous. I know, right? But what most researchers do agree on is that narcissism is a learned behavior that comes from the extremes of parenting. They either had a parent that was way overprotective and coddling, making them believe that they were entitled. And like Dr. Phil says, we're not raising children, we're raising adults. So if you coddle a child and make them believe that they're entitled, then they're going to become an entitled adult. So think of it as programming or writing software for someone's operating system, right? The other extreme is that they were neglected, abandoned, or abused. So it's really a trauma response around a mindset that is, I'm going to get you before you get me type of strategy, right? The strategy is really around being self-protected, but the behavior is often arrogant, very over the top, putting themselves above everyone so that they can never be hurt again. So this is important. So I really want you to pay attention. This is why you can't win arguments with a narcissist. They're constantly in defense mode. They're finding anything and everything to throw at you, which is why most of the arguments end up taking a left turn, right? I know I've experienced that. They strategically pull in irrelevant topics that have nothing to do with the original argument. It's part of their strategy, whether they realize it or not. It's a survival tactic to ward off pain and disappointment. Again, they never want to be hurt again. And unfortunately, it's a hurt people strategy. Remember, whether we realize it or not, everything we do sits on top of a strategy. That strategy is either controlled by our unconscious mind and our nervous system, or when you become emotionally stable, it's intentionally controlled by your conscious mind. So our goal as normal humans is to align and to be aware or conscious of the strategies that we're deploying to make sure that they're serving our best interests in a loving, harmonious way. But a narcissist is really devoid of real love, empathy, compassion. So unfortunately, this never applies to them. So again, these are theories. I really want to emphasize that. These are theories, right? This is what psychodynamicists say. Now, let's face it, these are theories. And these theories don't make it easier for you to deal with the suffering that you may have encountered, right? But if you're like me, if I better understand the driver of behavior, it makes the forgiving process a lot easier and faster. And remember, forgiveness is really the gift that you're giving to yourself. So I hope this information that I'm exposing will help you to heal and help reveal the fact that you're not crazy. You're just in a manipulation web of a narcissist or one who is displaying high narcissistic tendencies. Another important fact is that the narcissist condition doesn't have a good prognosis, because experts say that it really falls under the personality disorder category. In the individual's perspective, what they're doing is working for them, right? It's a delusional sense of reality that appears completely normal to the person. So the bigger issue, why there's no change, is because they don't see a problem to begin with. They don't see a problem with their behavior. My theory is that they've detached from their core, which again, I believe our core as self in humans is pure love. So I believe that the perceived pain that they endured, or whatever DNA marker that was passed along, caused them to detach. And again, that perceived pain that they've experienced, they're now unable to tap in, tune in, and turn on. It's like a glitch or non-functioning synapses that is not allowing them to really connect to self. In other words, they don't have the ability to feel empathy, compassion, because they cannot connect to themselves. They cannot connect to that higher spiritual side that we're all born with, that innocent inner child like soul, right? That requires them to be vulnerable. And that means letting down their defensive walls, which for some reason they're unable to do. Again, because in their mind, they cannot afford to be hurt again. My other theory is that there's no incentive to connect to themselves because they already feel special. They feel unique and they really feel like they got it going on and that they're above everyone, right? There's nothing to fix in their minds. So as a result, most narcissists are very judgmental and opinionated. So remember a few episodes ago, I mentioned that some people have a very rigid should and shouldn't expectation, right? Well, these people are typically narcissists or people with high narcissistic tendencies. They feel superior, and if things don't go the way that they think they should go, then they automatically blame others. And remember, to blame is a form of discharging your own pain and disappointment. The person can't physically and mentally deal with it. They don't have the capacity. And this is not an excuse. It's just information to help you better understand that behavior. So you've all heard me say this before, and this is important for everyone looking to grow. What I'm about to say is the foundation to self-improvement. So stop what you're doing and write this down. And of course, if you're driving, just mark this time slot, okay? So listen, again, write this down. You cannot change what you don't acknowledge. And I'm going to say that again. You cannot change what you don't acknowledge. It's impossible. Acknowledgement, really awareness, allows you to direct and correct. Allows you to direct your attention and your focus so that you can correct your behavior, really correct the behaviors that aren't serving you. So the main reason most people in general don't experience large areas of growth, both mentally, physically, and spiritually, is because they don't acknowledge their areas of shortcomings. They tend to them, right? So if a narcissist really feels like they know it all and they have it all together, then there's no incentive to grow, right? Growth is really an intentional process for the most part. The other growth that we experience is through self-reflection. But again, that requires you to look into the accountability mirror to reflect on what needs to change. Growth is not automatic. You have to be intentional about growth to experience real quantum leaps. You don't automatically get better or wiser. You just automatically get older. So just to recap, because I know we've covered a lot of stuff really, really quickly. A narcissist feels no reason to change and no reason to grow. All is good in their delusional world, and therein lies the main problem, right? So again, in this episode, part 1, we're going to give you some common sense perspectives around navigating around a narcissist. Then make sure that you tune in next week, part 2, where we give you some really, really extreme perspectives around dealing with a narcissist or people with high narcissistic tendencies. Remember, here's solution time, right? Here's a 3 common sense approach to what you need to know in order to effectively navigate around a narcissist. These are proven and effective when applied. Remember, knowledge without action is useless, so make sure that you apply these, okay? Number 1, you need to establish boundaries. And I'll go in more detail in part 2, but just know that you have to establish boundaries in order to keep your sanity as much as possible, even if it's a loved one, an offspring, or family member. If it's a friend, I would suggest to drop them like a bad habit. But if they are planted in your life, someone that you can't get rid of, someone that you have to deal with, then you need to establish clear and effective boundaries. So number 2 is you need to know this. It is not your job to fix them. It's virtually impossible. Some say it is impossible, period, right? I'm a reform fixer, so I know this firsthand. And what I learned over the years is that fixers are only delaying their own healing process. They look to fix others as a means to delay their own need to self-reflect and correct what they know needs to change within themselves, right? It's at a subconscious level. So the problem with trying to fix a narcissist is that they can be hot and cold. And when they've been cold for a long period of time, and then suddenly out of nowhere, they do something really, really sweet, right? We get into this fix it and people pleasing mode. And the narcissist knows this and then manipulates you in a way to keep you off centered. That's because they're toxic. And again, some refer to them as real emotions, which is why they can display pathological tendencies. So this next one is the most important one. So number 3, please pay attention. You cannot let them have the power to determine how you feel about who you are. And I'm going to say that again. You cannot let them have the power to determine how you feel about who you are. If you give them the power to determine your self-worth in a relationship, if it's a family member, if it's a boss, a coworker, whatever your situation happens to be, if you give that person the power to determine your validation, your self-worth, you're going to feel awful the majority of the time in their presence, 100%. So write this next part down to make sure that you understand, okay? Again, I'm going to give you time because this is really, really, really important. They have to put you down in order for them to feel better. It's an automatic response. And again, because they're void of key feelings, they're void of empathy, they're void of compassion. They don't have the ability, they don't have the capacity, they don't have it within themselves, and you can't give what you don't have. So I'm sure the majority of you have heard of some version or have seen some of these videos where someone is cursing out Siri and Siri is responding with harsh and mean rebuttals. Rebuttals are criticizing, some of them are very demeaning. We all laugh at those videos because they're meant to be funny. And let's face it, a lot of them are, right? But in reality, when you're dealing with a person with high narcissistic tendencies, it really is like you're dealing with a Siri or an Alexa. So no matter how close you think you are to this person, they're very similar to artificial intelligence, but their artificial intelligence needs to put you down in order for them to feel better about themselves. And that's the problem. They call it leveling, right? So if you're up here, a narcissist either has to build themselves up to be equal or, in most cases, superior than you, right? This is the reason why they're over the top. They're very egocentric. They're overbearing at times because they have to be superior, right? Or if you're up here, they have to shoot you down because they can't feel like you have anything over them, right? Again, to help you better understand the behavior, this is a protective response. It's really a trauma response that is viewed as maladaptive to everyone on the outside looking in, except for the narcissist who views it as appropriate behavior, right? But here's the important part. You can't take that bait. And more importantly, you can't be the bait. So what do I mean about can't take the bait? Well, here's another thing. There's another offensive. They're going to violate your rights. This is beyond being assertive. This is more about aggressiveness, right? An aggressive nature that doesn't have to involve violence. In most cases, it's just verbal aggression or verbal abuse, right? They're protecting their rights, but they're not recognizing your rights, or worse, they're stepping all over your rights. Gaslighting, I love this, is to manipulate someone using psychological methods into questioning their own sanity or powers of reasoning. It's a strategy, whether they realize it or not. So they talk to you in such a way that you can never win, right? Anything that goes wrong is your fault. And if you challenge them, they'll just blame you for making them feel bad. Or they'll accuse you of saying something that you never said because they're always misinterpreting information. Again, they tend to bend reality in their favor or introduce irrelevant information that has nothing to do with the original topic that makes you feel like you're going insane, right? Here's another important fact, so please pay attention. If you're happy and you're winning at something, they'll want to tear you down. If you're at peace with yourself, they'll want to invite their toxic chaos into the equation. And if you're worthy and you have a great sense of self, that gives you power, you have to understand that that is toxic to them. They may be attracted to those qualities initially, but over time, they can't suffer your strength, your happiness, or your success, right? They can't endure your power, your peace, because they know that deep down inside that they don't have those things, right? And so they have to shoot you down, tear you down, usually through verbal abuse, and that becomes their main goal and objective. They have to take that away from you, right? So it's a cat and mouse game, right? So every time that you're up, they have to break you down. They have to tear you down. So you keep going up, they keep tearing you down. Now, here's another crazy fact. Most narcissists actually think that you're the narcissist, which makes a little bit of sense, right? Because all relationships, like I mentioned in the very beginning, are mirrors, which is why you need to follow these 3 common sense approaches to navigating around a narcissist or people with high narcissistic. Here's a key takeaway for part 1. Most narcissists lack empathy and compassion, and they tend to exploit others for their own gain, which can lead to emotional manipulation and harm. It's important to set clear boundaries and stick to them. You need to safeguard your mind and your emotional well-being to minimize the impact of a narcissist's behavior. But the most important fact is that you cannot allow them to determine your self-worth. You can't give them that power. If they know that they have power over you, they own you. So take your power back by following these 3 proven and effective approaches. So again, this was part 1 of a 2-part segment, right? So next week we'll do part 2. And again, that will be a different, more extreme, more militant perspective, which is what the power of the P is all about, right? Remember, if you like this video and any of our previous videos, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Also, let us know what topics you'd like us to discuss in the future. Thanks again. Now you know. One love. Today's episode was sponsored by Help to Love, a platform to open your mind, achieve mental agility, and integrate into the person that you're meant to be. With a wealth of resources and expert advice at your fingertips, Help to Love makes prioritizing your mental well-being easier than ever. It's a non-judgmental approach to mental wellness to help you design that 10x life you deserve. Sign up today at www.helptolove.com. Join the thousands of users who have already discovered the transformative power. Register for the free webinar that will open your mind and plant seeds for your ultimate breakthrough. If you felt this episode was helpful and insightful, please like, share, and subscribe so that you'll be notified of all of our upcoming content and special announcements. I'm E.L. Brooks, your host. As always, I thank you for your support and especially your time. One love.